This one is one I've been waiting to do too. Kisame versus Jinbei. Jinbei or Kisame is one of the Akatsuki members. He was one of the last remaining Akatsuki members too. He survived pretty long, and actually he lost his life because he didn't want to divulge information about his friends or his colleagues, the people he was working with. They're like, tell us what you know about what's going on with you and the Akatsuki. He's like, I'd rather die. And that's how he killed himself. But he, had Samehada on his side. He was partners with Itachi. He could fuse with Samehada. We got Jinbei on the other side of things, who's a fishman martial artist. Fishman Kumite, Fishman Karate, Fishman Kempo, Fishman Jiu-Jitsu. He knows, Fishman Kung Fu. He knows all those techniques. And he can thrive in water because he has no devil fruit. He's not a devil fruit. So y'all, you gotta remember this about Jinbei. Some people forget who are not, One Piece fans. Strength goes to Jinbei. He is a guy that, stood on business against a guy who has an element that he could have been fish food if Akainu, was really hunting him down and not Luffy at Marineford. He could have been fish food, but he stood on that fucking hand with both hands. He was, grabbing Akainu's fist to keep him away from Luffy, defending Luffy. His strength is, not to be slept upon, and especially in this fight against another fish-like guy. But Kisame, I do feel like moves a little quicker. On land, in water too. Jinbei's a little more, a built guy. Where Kisame's a little more, like my kind of build, so he can move a little quicker. In water, out of water. So I give the speed to Kisame, and this is in the Naruto world. We're fighting the Naruto world in scenario 1. Durability goes to Jinbei. Durability, like I already said, he's a guy who's built. He's built more than Kisame is. He can take some hits, and like I said earlier, he took an attack from Akainu when he wasn't done. He was like, I still have to get Luffy out of here. That might hurt, but I'm still running around. Endurance, I give it to Jinbei as well. He's known to have fought somebody for days on end. Kisame did not fight nobody for days on end, people. He did not do that shit. He fought against a tailed beast who was also of magma or lava, style. But he ended up fighting that guy and having him, defeated within time because he had, stolen chakra from him. He was stealing chakra the whole fight. And not just that, he had his teammate there too. But Jinbei was holding down and fights by himself. Endurance, I get to Jinbei. Intelligence, I got Kisame. Kisame's a ninja, so he knows the arts of deception. He knows how to play deceptive acts. Now, don't lie and other things, damn well he does. He fucking hid inside of Samehada when Killer V and Raikage thought that they had killed, V, right? With the double lariat move. But he had hid inside Samehada, and he popped out of Samehada later on like, hey man, I'm still here. He knows how to perform deceptive acts. That's why I give him, some intelligence. Experience goes to Jinbei. Jinbei's been a practitioner of that shit for a long time. It wasn't some shit that he just woke up with and he's blessed with some kind of devil. Probably, like I said, he's worked that shit and honed that shit for years. He's in his late 40s, almost 50s, I think. Kisame's around that age too, I think, but I still give it to Jinbei. Close skills, I got Jinbei. Like I said, Jiu-Jitsu, Kempo, Kung Fu, Kumite. This guy doesn't fuck around when it comes to the martial arts and shit, boy. He has a move called, 5,000 ton big fist, and that shit, does damage to people. Range skills, I give it to Kisame. He uses, water shock bomb jutsus. He uses other water jutsus. He can summon water up. But it's kind of pointless against Jinbei, as he's a fishman, like I said. Recoup goes to Kisame. He can, get energy from, other animals, or, even, try to take away his life force or whatever. But chakra and, other stuff are not the same thing. I don't do what other people do. So, that's basically useless here. But he could still use Samehada to, catch some, recoup. He fuses with the sword, and then he's like back to, being a shark. But he doesn't have the damage that was dealt to him before. Because Samehada still has chakra pool sealed from, or energy sealed within, chakra sealed within his blade that was, used during his previous fights before this one. But I still give the hacks to Jinbei because, like I said, he has Kumite. He has all these martial arts moves, but not just that. He has hockey. He has armament hockey. He has Rio armament hockey. He has observation hockey. I'm surprised this nigga conquers hockey. By the way, but he'll just be too overpowered if he had that. But environment goes to Kisame, since it's in the Naruto world. But either way, I got Jinbei winning that, and I got him winning mid-diff. And that's in the Naruto world. And then in the One Piece world, it's kind of like no different. Strength goes to Jinbei. He knows those seas, and he's known as the first son of the sea. You gotta, he calls to some titles sometimes, fools. Speed goes to Kisame. He falls into the water, he can move around, but even if Jinbei's slower in the water, those hits land, and Jinbei, like I said, is durable. This is on land, off land. He's still a guy who's built, Endurance goes to Jinbei as well. Like, he's been in fights with Fire Fist Ace for days on end. They were fighting for days. Kisame was not fighting with Roshi for days. He only fought with him for hours. Intelligence goes to Kisame, as he'll still try to perform deceptive acts. Jinbei has experience, though, so he'll be alright. He has seen people who fucked around and have done stuff. He's not no fool. Is what I'm saying. He has experience in the jujutsu, karate, kempo, kumite, kung fu. He's not. Oh my gosh, close skills go to Jinbei. Like I just said a second ago. I can't stress that shit enough. Range skills go to Kisame, though. Water shock bomb jutsu and other water jutsus, but I'm like, it's Jinbei, so it's like kind of pointless using those moves against him. Recoup goes to Kisame as well. He has Samehada he can fuse with and catch a little, healing factor from that. But hacks go to Jinbei, as he also has hockey on his side. Advanced armament hockey and observation hockey. He can see the moves coming before they come. And then environment goes to Jinbei. He knows those seas and everything. So, in this one, I'm going to give it, maybe even low diff here. Because he knows this realm, this plane existence, because this is in the One Piece world. Kisame is like, thinking his, intelligence and being a ninja is going to help him out, and, speed and all that. Because he only has 4 things that are better than Jinbei in this scenario, but still Jinbei wins. Jinbei wins in both scenarios, in the Naruto world or in the One Piece world. I got Jinbei winning that shit. Low to mid diff. And that's cool calling the corner. And that's what Green Angel says about that fight. So let me know in the comments what you think.